Uh, Let me do the treasurer's report, get it out of the way.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the treasurer's report as of June 13th, 2026. Our OSU checking account had $935.13. Our savings is $2,489.47. Our total Oregon State Credit Union account is $3,424.60. Our PayPal balance is $347.08. Our Square Up balance is 81 cents. Our cash on hand is $5.82. Our total is $3,778.31. End of the report.
Very good. Ted, did you want to step in and do the treasury or do the excuse me the past uh, whatever we did last month?
Yes. Hopefully Friday you should have received a copy of May's minutes.
Minutes. There we go.
If there is anything, additions, deletions, or corrections, please let me know. Rusty.hinge@gmail.com.
Okay. Um. Well, I guess I'm stuck here. So, um, Paul B. PEB. Anything's going on with your group of guys or scouts and stuff down there?
I'm not doing anything with scouts as far as radio stuff go right now.
Uh,
Maybe Larry has something.
okay, that's right. So, Larry, did you have anything that you wanted to add to what's going on
Um,
with that?
no, not much has been happening. Um, it's been kind of busy, kind of hard to get people into our meetings and stuff. We're still working at getting the venture crew organized. Hopefully, end of the summer we'll get something going again.
Yeah, it's weird that right now it's awful hard to lasso people. People are going off in all different directions and trying to get their camping done and other things happening. Okay, Glenda, you usually have something to say about your group down there. What do you have to say about your group? You must be taking care of something else out there.
Can
So
you hear me?
there we go. Go for it. You got it.
Yeah, my Zoom app just freaked out when I tried to unmute myself. I have been pretty busy doing Girl Scout treasure stuff right now for end of year reports, but the service unit did send me an email asking if we might want to start a radio club for our
Oh,
service unit Girl Scouts. And so that's something that I told them as soon as I'm done with my end of year financial reports for our service unit, I will definitely love to start talking about that because I think that will be a lot of fun.
mhm, very good. So, how many? I know a few people made it to CPAC this year. So, I know it was good to see Paul B. and Drew out there. Scott was also there. Anna was also showed up there. Did I miss anybody else there that went to CPAC and enjoyed themselves at that?
I was there.
You were? Where?
Yeah.
How did I miss you?
I was out running. I was running around looking for the transmitters outside of the convention center, and um,
Oh,
I was
that's
at a
right. I
radio.
I
Yeah,
did run into you. Yeah, I
I think
ran
you
ran
did
into
run
you
into
on the
each other.
on the lobby out there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry about that.
yeah.
So
It was fun. I'm looking forward to next year. I'm going to try to volunteer next year at the registration booth area.
cool. Cool. Yeah, it was a little smaller. There was only like 1,250 or some odd people, attendees that showed up. Usually that number is up in the 15, 14, 1,500 area, but um, that was it didn't happen this year. And I think probably fuel prices had a lot to do with the cost of things, where people just weren't doing as much. I know Paul B. Tried to do a program on 7QP. Did you want to say anything about that?
Uh, I tried, we couldn't get the video feed to work. They kept trying to tell me it was my computer, but my computer worked fine when I went back and plugged it in anywhere else. So I just had to give a verbal presentation, but I gave a presentation on what our PRA group is doing up with 7QP, and only had about 4 or 5 hecklers in there from PRA that kept me honest. But I'm uh, I'm willing to do it at Friday night at Field Day if people are interested. But probably the biggest screen I have is a 32-inch diagonal monitor.
Oh, that might be just good enough for it.
Yeah,
You could probably do it without a screen.
yeah. Well, that's
Just
what I
throw the
did at
monitor.
CPAC.
Yep, throw the monitor up there and let everybody watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did get one guy that from the group down in Eugene, Valley Radio Club, and he kind of pioneered his stuff down there. So it was interesting that they also had a pneumatic tower. I'm not sure which one came first, but they had a pretty good time. And I don't know, maybe we shared a little too much information with him. So we'll find out in the future.
We did have a pretty good discussion, and which I thought was good. So.
It was more of a discussion, and that was a really good discussion about all the things that we did, experienced, how we address things, how other people address things, and that was a really good discussion there. Appreciate
Improving
that.
the competition only makes us all better.
That's right. Yep. So anything else on business, new or old, or stuff like that?
Yeah, how is our field day plans going?
Okay, and I'll be talking about that. So I have a whole long list of things that I'll be yapping and boring you to death as far as talking about field day. So we'll walk through that. I had sent out a request as far as people trying to figure out what we're going to have attending, but everybody is very reserved, and I had hardly any feedback. So it's like nobody wants to do field day this year, and we'll see if we can turn that around here a little bit later in our meeting here. So I guess a couple other things is that I think everybody knows that I'm kind of a DX junkie. And this last 2, 3 weeks, at least the last 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks back, it was kind of dead, but about 2 weeks ongoing. Actually, things have been pretty darn alive. There's been a lot of stuff going on there. And it's really easy, like if you're on 20 meters, to snag some really good DX. The whole area there around Africa, that west coast of Africa, there's just a ton of stuff going on out there. So it's a great time to get out there if you want to chase DX. Also, the last week plus, we've had some good openings on 6 meters. It's been very, very nice out there. Most of it is US stuff. Once in a while, there's some international, some DX that pops up. But for 6 meters, if you can get contacts on, that would really help out. I know the beginning of this season, I had 6 states I needed for worked all states. And actually, all of it happened in one day. In one day, we had some really nice openings to the East Coast, but I was able to pick up 3 of those stations that I needed, 3 of those states for worked all states. And that was good. So I have 3 more, and I have Delaware, Rhode Island, and Vermont. So all of those are East Coast states and challenging to get, especially Rhode Island. So hopefully I can get those things knocked off this season.
That's 6 meters?
That's 6 meters.
That's really impressive. Really impressive, actually.
Why so?
Well, I have 6 meter capability and I've never even heard anybody on 6 meters, so I think I may have an antenna issue, but
The last 2 weeks, um, it's been almost nonstop with stuff going on 6 meters, practically from the time. Oh, it doesn't always wake up in the morning. And right now we're kind of in the lull, so it's 6 meters is dying down. But the East Coast, it's all red. It's all just slammed with stuff going on in the morning when I get up. And then a little while later in the morning, probably around 9, 10 o'clock, we start getting more into the West Coast, Pacific Northwest. And if you get on there around 11:30 to about 1, that's when Pacific Northwest starts waking up. But it's been practically almost every single day. That's been the way it's been going on. Take a look at PSK Reporter, and that will tell you and crank up, set it for 6 meters, set it for looking for anyone out there, and FT8, and and only look for maybe about the last 15 minutes, and then it'll show you what's going on, and you can track down DX on that. Yeah, I got
what's the
another
best
friend
part
of,
of the band?
pardon?
What's the best part of 6 meters to? 'Cause
The
it's a big
best thing
band.
that you're going to get is the FT8.
Oh, okay. I have
FT8 is,
that programmed in, so.
yep, is going to yield you the best results. If there's going to be, in other words, I'd start with FT8. If it gets pretty saturated, you have a lot of stuff going on, then you can go off and try CW or try phone to see if there's any activity out there. But start with FT8, and that'll give you an idea of if anything's happening. So, yeah, I mean, it's FT8 is one of those magical bands, and this is the time of the year that late springtime is usually when you have your big openings, and you just have to be there at the right time, right place to snag what you got out there. Um, yeah, I got another interesting thing is that 10 meters for the last month, 2 months, it's been pretty much dead. There's been nothing going on 10 meters. And 12 meters has been almost nothing, but 15 meters during the midday, very, very active. I got a ton of stuff today on 15 meters. A couple new countries that I'd never worked before, um, and that was really cool. In fact, let's see. Do I still? Oh, nope, nope. I still don't have that one up here. Cameroon. I got Cameroon today. So that's another country there on the west coast of Africa. So that was first time on 15 meters for Cameroon. Nice going there. So any other thing that anybody want to mention at this point in time? Any other business before we maybe do a little bit of technical stuff? Okay. So next thing on the agenda was field day. So field day is not next weekend, but the weekend after next. So if you haven't got your order into HRO to pick up any devices or any hardware or any things you need for field day, uh, time's getting short because once you buy something, you want to play with it a little bit and make sure it's going to work. So field day this year is at Willamette Park. So if you go down 99 there, headed south, you had to turn off on Good Night there and go back in about a half a dozen blocks, and then you run into Willamette Park. There's also a sign there on 99 for it too. And we'll be in the same area we've been on there the years past. That first area on the left side, that used to be the old trailer court for the city of Corvallis there. So we're going to start off. So that's on the 27th and 28th of June. So make sure it's in your calendar. We will be doing setup. So legally for what we end up doing, we can't start setting things up until Friday, the 26th at 11 o'clock. So anytime after 11 o'clock on the 26th on Friday, then we can start setting up all of our equipment. So I would like to get some information from you guys as far as who's bringing campers, what kind of basic equipment and stuff like that. But to give me some idea of where we're going to put everything. And usually what we do is that most of us usually show up right around that 11 o'clock time frame, maybe a little earlier, a little later. But then some people have their favorite places. You can let me know where you want to park things if you have a favorite place. Else, when people show up, we can go ahead and make decisions on where we're going to put people and where things are going to go. But it's a pretty good sized area. There's some trees that are right out in the open. There are some places that are very nicely treed. You have to be a little bit careful, campers, on what you have for clearance above that to get into some of those places there. But this is a 24-hour contest. It starts at 11 o'clock Saturday and it runs to 11 o'clock Sunday. So 24 hours. We operate through the night. So if anybody has night owls they want to take and do that graveyard shift, let me know. There's lots of stuff that goes on at that time that most of us don't even know about. So this is a fun contest. This is where we all get together and have fun. We're not that interested in scores. Scores are nice, but this is where everybody gets to operate. And the really nice thing is that everybody gets to operate as if they're an extra. So you get extra class privileges for everybody that wants to operate. People that are on the line, like you have friends or something that may be thinking about moving from a technician class to a general class, bring them along. We can put them in front of the microphone here and let them operate and get an idea of what it's like to work on HF and talk to the whole world out there. But the main thing is to have fun. And we want everybody to have a break at doing things. If people want to take a break from working on stuff, let someone else know so they can get in and fill the void. So we'll be doing I'll be putting in a Wi-Fi network. So all of our laptops that we do logging at all the stations will all be connected through Wi-Fi. The program that we use is the typical N3FJP. Current version on that looks like 6.6.10. So, um, you know, please preload it. I'll probably have a memory stick or something around there. Someone will take care of some of the IT things that go on. But I'll have a memory stick. So if you don't have the latest version, we'll get you on the right version and make sure that you can connect up to the server there. But I'll be sending out another email just specifically on what version of N3FJP. I hope a lot of times they update it just before the contest, so it's a scramble to get everybody updated. So put the latest on there. That's probably good enough. I'll be sending out the credentials for the licensing of N3FJP and also the credentials on how to log on to the Wi-Fi network. But the credentials are exactly the same from last year. If you have that laying around, it'll work for this year too. So we want to make sure that if you have other friends that might be interested in the ham radio or doesn't know what ham radio is, or just cool guys that like hanging out and stuff, invite them along, bring them along, where this is going to be more of a social event rather than a diehard techie event. So bring your friends along. So Paul Asardi and Zero VLR, he'll be taking care of the food, and when he gets back off of his travels, he'll be sending out email and letting people know what'll be going on for food. But basically, it's pretty much what we've done before. The things he's going to want to know is, are you going to be there just for maybe setup or tear down? Are you going to be doing overnighters? How many when we get to Saturday? Remember, Saturday night dinner. This is like bring a friend along, someone that might be interested, like your wife or significant other, or someone else that is interested in ham radio. But bring them along. This is kind of like a family get together where we can all get together, enjoy our food, enjoy the other friends around, and kind of share what we do with ham radio. So also this is an opportunity if you like cooking or if someone in your family likes cooking, have them bring another dish along, and so they can share things. And sometimes we get some really, really good stuff that comes in for us. So Paul will be needing to know head counts. So when he uh, gets his head above the sand here, he will ask. He needs head counts. Needs to be fairly accurate so he knows what how much food to get. Now last year for Saturday lunch, we were kind of surprised. We had an awful lot of visitors in there and kind of ran us out of food that we had to uh, make a uh, make an extra run for getting some extra buns or biscuit or something for lunch there. So he does need to have some idea of how many he's going to be showing up there. So let's talk a little bit about hardware. So people like bringing generators, and here's something. So power, so generators, solar, batteries. This last 7QP event, I was able to run the entire time on 80 meters and all the stuff that I did just on batteries. When you have generators, that always brings electrical noise in. Okay, one thing we don't really like, and that's the older type of generators that make lots and lots of noise. I think most everybody has all gravitated towards generators like the Hondas that are very, very quiet. You can talk, you can carry on a conversation. They don't make much noise. They're also much cleaner on generating RF. So um, please consider if you are going to bring a generator, kind of let us know what you're bringing. Also, if you um, as we get things organized, it might make more sense where you share a generator for your system. So you might connect with someone else's generator. So bring plenty of extension cords, heavier ones that aren't going to become a fire hazard when someone starts pulling a lot of current out there. Also, if you use solar and batteries, remember even solar chargers, they also make electrical noise. So back on generators, generators do make electrical noise. Some of them worse, some of them better, but they all do it. What you don't want to do is take your coax and your power cable and lay right next to each other. Those two will couple together and dump a bunch of RFI into that cable and wreak havoc for you trying to hear anything out there. Keep them separated. The other thing we've been doing at 7QP, um, I've got a set of these really honking big ferrite cores. And so out of the generator, we ground the generator so some of that noise will go into the ground. And those ferrites will help knock down the RFI coming out of the generator. And then at the other end, as it went into the warming hut, we'd throw some more ferrites on that cable there. So it reduced the noise. It's not going to get rid of it, but it reduces it. But there are some of these inverter generators that are not very clean at all. One year I ran around with a little nano VNA looking at generators, and we found, I think it was Yamaha, the big blue generators. Those were not very quiet. Those were very, very noisy. So that's one that we didn't use or didn't do anything with. So that's not a so that's a consideration there. Trying to think of anything else I can mention about that. That's about it for generators. So if you can run all and you can, like if you could run a whole contest at 100 watts with a reasonable radio, um with just 100 amp hour radio. It pencils it out and it works out. All of it depends on what that your laptop is going to end up sucking. So that you may have to find a generator to run off of that. Um, let's see. Okay, so another thing that you want to remember that you bring along with you is a little HT. Bring an HT radio with you. So we use that in camp there for you don't want to miss a meal. You don't want to be called late for dinner. Um, you anytime that you're doing like a band changes or you're taking a break for information, if your things are getting transferred to a different operator, different radio, that information needs to be exchanged. People need to know what's going on. So we use those HTs to keep everybody connected. So don't forget to bring your HT. And what we use 146.44 for simplex for talking amongst all ourselves. Also, don't forget to bring an extra battery. One battery likely will not get you through the full 24 hours there. So as you're putting things up, as you're putting up antennas and staking out ground, putting up masts and guidelines and stuff like that, and where your coax is laying, think about safety. Think about safety both when you're putting the stuff up and you're taking it down, so you don't not creating a hazard for someone else, but you kind of want to make sure that you do things in a safe way. I will be trying to find someone that will be a um, uh, safety officer. That's what we're looking for, safety officer. I know Paul B has volunteered for that sometimes, and we'll see if he wants to do that again. But the safety officer, one of the things he's around to help people think about how things get laid out when things go up and down to make sure everything gets done in a safe way. So, uh, when you do something, when you're hanging antennas up there, get the old safety officer involved there. Also, one of the things you want to do is remember the ground out there is not real favorable for putting ground rods in the ground. It's a pain in the backside. Drew really knows about that. So he used to every year he would always get the stakes that we pulled out. He would take a sledgehammer and re-flatten those things, re-straighten them. But it's a good thing to have a ground at your generator to bleed off any of the RF that it generates into the dirt. It's also good back at your station to also have a ground stake in the ground there, so any RF will end up being dissipated back into the ground from that. So don't forget your ground rods if you don't already have them. You can probably go to Home Depot and cut one up into 3 or 4 pieces there to make that happen. Okay,
I have a safety suggestion.
sure.
I think it's a good idea wherever you have a stake in the ground that we put a little flag or a piece of red ribbon on it so that as you're walking around, you see where the stake in the ground is. And then, of course, usually there's a line of some sort going to that stake. So it's a good safety thing to be able to spot them easily.
Good point. So I have a reel of safety tape, and so those kinds of things, you want to wrap a flag or some of that safety tape around it as a flag, big yellow stuff. Also, when that stuff gets coax and stuff goes along the grass out there, I usually tie some of that safety tape on it so people has more visibility, so people know that there's something in the grass. Like for all the stakes that we use for the pneumatic tower, there's safety cones that go on that. There's also those water noodles goes on it. So anything that gives it visibility that lets people know that that's what's going on. There's times where I also put out sawhorses to say, hey, this is kind of a no-go zone. Like if they don't want vehicles driving across coax. So when I put up that big 160 meter G5 RV, that tends to end up in the middle of that entire area there. So I have to have a bunch of barriers set up to try and make sure people don't get tangled up, run over and destroy my coax.
Was that Andy volunteering to be the safety officer?
I will consider it.
Actually, that brings up an interesting point. I know that Spike doesn't make it to these Zoom meetings, but is Spike still involved at all, or?
I don't know. I haven't seen Spike at Rick Riel or any kind of event at all for probably been 5 years.
Is there a way to reach out to any of the old members that maybe didn't make the jump to Zoom?
I ran into Spike in a restaurant a couple of months ago, and he told me that he's still getting the emails, but ever since we stopped doing the face-to-face meetings, he likes the face-to-face meetings, and he doesn't necessarily like the Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his health has been issues, and he's lost his wife, and he's now living with his daughter. So that's the story. I don't know whether he plans on coming to field day or participating, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I
Okay.
just would love it if we could reach out to any of the members that maybe didn't make the leap over to Zoom.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's something that I probably need to do is in my mailings, make sure that, some of the older people get a little message that, hey, come and join us here. And it's a big social face-to-face meeting. I like that. Face-to-face meeting. So this is our one of our annual meeting face-to-face meetings that we don't have to rely on Zoom. I like that.
Could we consider having a face-to-face meeting at the diner like we used to?
That's an ideal. We need to get Paul involved there, and but part of us is that we are a bit spread out these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
you could do it at least once a month, or once a quarter, once every 6 months,
once
something.
a quarter or 6 months. Yeah. We always do it at Christmas, but we probably we have a get together for but anyway, okay. Good point.
Let's increase it from once a year to twice a year.
Yeah.
There we go. 50% increase.
Yeah. It's important to cultivate the offline group too.
Good point. Very good point. I like that.
Yeah, and we can still broadcast it so that everybody can check in on it.
Yep. Okay. Let's go hit another topic, weather. So it's been a long time since we've had a field day and had to worry about rain. So looking at the weather this year and how it's been going, I'm not counting on rain being a savior. I don't even know if we're even going to get any clouds, but if it's going to be as usual, it's going to be hot. It'll most probably be hot. I think the real question is how hot is it going to be?
The question every day.
Yeah. So it's been pretty brutal. I know last year it was for setup wasn't too bad, but it was still kind of uncomfortable. But when it came to tear down on on Sunday, that was horrible. The heat was really brutal. So the obvious warnings: stay hydrated, bring plenty of water. We'll have ice water in a big container there, one of those big gators or whatever they call it, and to help keep it cool down. But remember that you're just drinking water. You're not dealing with anything with your electrolytes. So if you're sweating like crazy and flushing all your sweat out on one end of you, that uh, you're not going to have the salts in your system there to deal with keeping good heart conditions, keeping from cramping and stuff like that. So don't forget to bring something that has some electrolytes in it that can help you withstand some of the heat out there. I remember one year it was so hot that I think it was up in the, it was like, it was almost hitting 100 where I couldn't stand it any longer. And I turned the air conditioning on in my camper. And you can't imagine the dirty looks I got on that.
I
Nobody
can
would
because I made them.
Nobody forgive me for turning on my air conditioner.
I think it was
But
like 110 one year.
yeah, well, it was pushing 100.
Well, speaking of that, my first field day was in June of 1959, about 3 weeks after I'd upgraded to a general. And it was a lot of fun, but I got a plaque from that. It was in Tucson, Arizona. So you
Oh,
talk about heat, but I don't remember heat never really bothered me that much because it's dry, dry heat. But
yep.
that was a lot of fun. It was. And the next year was the radio club there was the Old Pueblo Radio Club. They're still in existence actually, and their call was W7GV.
Hey, Mike, while discussing
Yeah.
beverages, it would probably be a good point to mention libation issues.
Yeah, I have a bullet here that I'll mention that please bring your liquids and stuff. We do not have a license for having alcohol. So if you don't mind, if you're going to consume it, do it inside your camper or but not out openly. Um, and also for all the meals and stuff, uh, we won't have drinks, so bring your own drinks for all the meals and everything. So another thing to remember is a good thing to do is that um, bring your own snacks. When you're working away on the radio there and your adrenaline is flowing and stuff like that, you have a free hand. It's always nice to grab a few potato chips or Doritos or whatever you like for a snack. So also another thing is that um, I like once in a while a little power drink to end up waking me up and getting me going again. So remember to bring your snacks, your own personal taste and snacks, and your own drinks. And if you can, leave the alcohol at home. So getting down a little deeper. So Saturday morning, this is the morning before the old contest. So I'll hold a meeting. We'll get everybody together. We'll talk about how many stations that we want to do. So we'll be um, an alpha category in the event. So we've been usually, I think, running A5, A6, or something like that for stations. So we'll decide on how many stations because you need to know that because that's part of the exchange and the when you make a contact, you have to identify what kind of a group you are. We'll also let's see. We'll also talk about bandpass filters. So we like everybody to run bandpass filters. So that's a filter. So if you're running 20 meters, you want a bandpass filter on there to make sure that you're not bleeding over RF into other bands around you. Now that bandpass filter, I'll remind everybody again, it doesn't go out on the tuner side where your um, where your antenna is. It needs to go between your exciter and your transceiver and whatever you're using for a tuner.
Question.
Yes.
Um, do we have tuners so that you can have two stations in the same band? For instance, somebody working sideband and somebody working CW in the same band. Do we have two tuners that can separate that?
The bandpass filters are what does that. And if you're running using that triplexer, the guy that's running on the triplexer, like if we have a CW and a phone station, you need some separations between the two. The triplexer will provide you enough separations. Generally, if all you're running is just the standard old run-of-the-mill um, filters in there, you do not have enough filtering in there to keep one guy out of the other. You'll still hear the guy out there running CW, or you'll still hear the guy running phone out there. Sometimes, um, sometimes you can get away like on FT8. Don't see FT8 is something we could run in this contest. And so we've had it where someone's running phone, someone's running FT8, and they can coexist on that band. Not real always real well, but they can usually coexist there. So, Andy, does that kind of answer your question there?
Yes, there's also the possibility of taking turns using the band. In
Yep.
other words, if the sideband station's taking a break, the CW station can heat it up.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we want to do is make sure that people can yield. In other words, if they spend the time, maybe an hour out there, they rotate someone else in there to run, and maybe it's on digital, so digital gets cleaned a slate there where they don't have to compete with any other band noise on there. So we'll just have to see how when antennas go up, there's a lot of antenna up in the air, a lot of antennas up in the air. Some of those don't play well nice with each other, but we'll just have to wait and see how that works. So also on that Saturday morning meeting, we'll also talk about who's going to be operating what bands and what modes. So we'll get into that discussion and figure out who's going to end up taking CW and who's going to be running digital. It's probably, Scott's the only one that runs CW, so it's going to be more people um, doing FT8 and phone. I'm not sure how well CW and FT8 work together. Guess we'll find out. So a couple other reminders is that we'll have that pneumatic tower out there that does 20, 15, and 10. I doubt if we'll get any production out of 10. It'll have a triplexer on that, so you can get your want to have enough coax. So most people that are somewhere in that area can either run a coax over to it and get connected to it, or they can run off of someone else's radio in that area. But want to try and get people accustomed to running off of that and think about how all that stuff works. It's pretty cool. There'll also be 160 meter G5 RV, so that's good for 160 meters, and that's only something really early in the morning or at nighttime. 160 meter comes alive. But if you've never been on 160 meters, it might be a treat for you to get up there and see how that works. But it's mostly a nighttime. It is not mostly. It is a nighttime band. Also, that antenna is good on 80 meters, so I know that we can make some good contacts. Not all antennas that we have around here will get onto 80 meters, and so that's a good productive antenna for mucking around on 80 meters. It'll do most any other band out there. I think Paul B mentioned that it actually is a pretty decent band. Was it 20 meters that you played around on, or 15 meters that gave you some pretty good production off that big G5 RV that I had up there?
I didn't use the G5 RV at all.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, then I don't remember who it was, but they they had a smaller compromised antenna, and they thought that thing did pretty decent up there. Um, so one of the things that we need to continue to think about, and that's outreach, and that's if we have some other friends around that are interested in getting their ham ticket, or upgrading, or just see what field day is about, please invite them along because we are constantly wanting, looking for new hams and also really helping or wishing more hams would upgrade to a higher class and spend more time on some of the bigger bands that you can really get out and talk across the world out there. So any other questions? This is not all inclusive. There's a lot of things I left out of here, but I think it gave a basic overview of what our plans are and things to consider out there. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, I'm done talking.
Thank you.
Okay. I didn't know I was going to lead the meeting, but cool.
Thank you, Mike.
Tyler, did you have something you were trying to say there?
Thank you, Mike.
You're very welcome there. Okay, then
Mike, can a determination be made as to when we're going to do the face-to-face?
that's something that we will we'll think about in the future, and we'll in a meeting when we have all the management in here, we'll discuss that and see about making that happen. I
Yeah,
don't
we're
see
going
any,
to be,
I don't see any problem with it. It's throwing money at the restaurant for setting up in there, and just being okay for everybody to show up face to face.
We may not want to do it every week, or every month, but once or twice a year isn't bad.
Yep, I think let's start it at once a year or twice a year. We
Yep.
got Christmas and some other time mid-year. At least
Okay.
I'm for that.
all right, we'll put it on the agenda.
Yep. Okay, anything else, anybody?
I just have to tell Tom I like his display up on the wall behind him there.
All right. You're about to lose me here. I'm sitting in Virginia, so it's really
In
late.
Virginia. What are you doing over
Yeah.
there?
Well, I have to work here. But I
Oh,
will be back in Oregon for field day, so I will see you then.
cool. Okay.
All right.
Take care, all.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay. I'm bailing out of here. Everybody have a good week there. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at field day.